lag indicators like quarterly targets measure outcomes, not input. So they're irrelevant, really, especially if you're like measuring success on number of pitches that you're on. I guess if you're only tracking the win, you've missed the whole game, in my opinion.
My name's Mike Lander, and you're listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast, where we bring you actionable insights about sales RFPs, negotiations, and difficult procurement discussions from sales leaders, brand leaders, and procurement leaders. Please subscribe to get updates when new episodes are released. Oya, thanks ever so much for joining me on Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast. Great to have you as a guest.
Great to be here, Mike. Long time waiting.
Yeah, it has been quite a while, actually. And before we get into the who are you and what you do, obviously explain about the BD100 when you do your own intro. So, Oya, who are you? What do you do? What's the BD100 thing? And what's your favourite song and why?
Well, there's a lot there. Okay, so let's start off with who I am and what I do. I'm Oya Mustafa, Chief Growth Officer, Not Normal Group. And we're a fully integrated independent group of expert agencies, but we're built for collaboration, not bought for scale, which is kind of a key differentiator for us. And I basically lead the development of marketing and growth plans across the group and focus on building the right kind of growth like that. I kind of have a human-based approach. So this is a really topical thing for me, that it's strategic, human, because that's ultimately what makes it sustainable. The agencies within our group is RCP, the strategic creative, All Things, our creative production studio, Unfinished for media, Committed for PR, and I'll give you a spoiler alert, we have also For Real launching soon, which is a brand agency. So yeah, there we go. So each kind of exists in their own ecosystem, but we're tied together to drive brand success. So that's us and what I do there. In terms of the BD100. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, the wonderful BD100. I'm really embarrassed to say that this time last year, I didn't really know of them. But I had got nominated to be on the top 100 list by somebody. And that's when they first came onto my radar. And I entered because I'd nominated. So I thought, why not? And I ended up winning the BD100. Yeah, which is extremely humbling.
Amazing.
Yeah, which has brought us together.
It did.
Yeah, so it was amazing for the recognition alone, but the process itself was really cathartic and really reassuring for me. So if you don't know about them, go and see them. Rich and Jodie are amazing. Great team. And then my favourite song, there's many. Anyone that knows me that, I love music, I love dancing, but my all-time favourite has to be a personal one, which is Here Comes the Sun by Nina Simone. Ironically, not Beatles, and the reason why is a deeply emotional one, actually. So this year, come November, will be my mum's 10-year anniversary since we lost her to secondary cancer. And she was always my biggest cheerleader to defy, like, I could do anything I wanted to. And naturally, without that voice, I wobble quite a lot. And so when I hear that song, it just it has this thing where it just plays in the most unusual times when I need it most. And it's kind of my little way of getting a message from my mum. So that's my favourite song. And so there you go. I think I've answered all your questions.
Brilliant. No, well done. And obviously, very sorry to hear about your mother.
Thank
it's
you.
very sad. But I think music has a way of connecting us to times and people and emotions. And that's why we have music on all the time. In fact, I collect vinyl. I've gone back to a physical format because I love it. And our son, who's 13, now loves vinyl. So, and there will be songs, there are family songs that he'll never forget. So yeah, I think it's really important to have music as part of your life.
Oh, 100%.
So, let's get into the 3 questions. So first of all, talk to me about your views on why human-centric BD with tools and processes is so important.
There's so much I can say here, so I'll try and keep it to the key themes, really. Ultimately, really drill it down, people don't buy services, they buy people. And so they buy trust, right? That's always been the case. That in a sea of automation, it's really hard to differentiate yourself. And ultimately, that trust is your biggest differentiator.
Because bluntly, every agency has a methodology. No one ever bought because of the best methodology.
No, because people buy people. The methodology makes sense. It's scientific.
You have to have one.
The work is there. Great. Now, do I like the people? Because actually they're in this mix because I know they can do it. And I think that's it. It's people buy people, and that builds a foundation from trust. So that would be my number one thing, I'd say. I guess human-centric doesn't mean soft. I think that's changed. It means smart. It means showing up with emotional intelligence, building that cultural and business context, and the confidence, I guess, to say this isn't right for us, even when the revenue's tempting. So I think that's the human element,
Definitely. And that trust piece, Oya, we say people buy from people, and it is true. I think it's truer now than it ever has been. But actually, as an ex-buyer, I wouldn't buy your services because I happen to like the way that you behave in front of my other stakeholders. I'd recommend you because when we ask you challenging questions, you respond in an intelligent, thoughtful way that shows that you've solved this problem before. You're honest. You act with integrity when you say, we don't have an answer for that right now, but let's talk about something similar that we did for another client, slightly different, but let me explore with you how that worked. As you start to build that trust, I know I can ask you anything. You won't give me any bullshit answer. And we'll come to a solution together that commercially makes sense. That's what we need.
I completely agree. And I think what we've become complacent of as an industry, I think agencies and media suppliers, actually, because I did have a long stint in media. So sorry, I thought I turned my notifications off.
That's okay.
Sorry. But the clock never stops, Mike.
The clock never stops. Exactly. And that's why we do the podcast the way we do it, is because it's like having a chat in a coffee shop. Your phone's going to go off, and you choose to answer it or not, depending upon who it might be.
Exactly. Well, I've closed that window down now, so hopefully we won't be interrupted again
That's okay.
at the end of the session. But I think what I was going to say is that we've become complicit as a collective of agencies and suppliers as well, where you just want to please the client because you don't want to mitigate risk of losing. And I think that often that is not sustainable. It doesn't build trust, and it also then is a race to the bottom line. It devalues the value that we do. I think also the more we've done that, it also means that you're kind of out of tune with your gut instinct and spotting those red flags, which again, AI can't do that. Only experience and that human element allows you to go, well, it's time that we either ice it or move on completely. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there are also warning signs, but just to get your view on. This is the kind of off-piste bit, Oya, which is like we are genuinely just having a chat. Again, if you see clients that have been around the block for maybe, this is their fourth generation of contracts. Each contract is 2 or 3 years. So they're 8 to 10 years into their agency cycle, and they're doing a refresh for all sorts of good governance reasons, but also because they want to change things up. Some of those you may go, they're not for us, because as a very well-educated buyer about how agencies work on a fourth generation contract, you can bet that if I was in that role, I'd know how all the activities work. I'd know where the efficiencies are. I know where you can give room for innovation. I know when I need a production engine. I know how I can segment that value chain. Some agencies may say, that's not for us, actually, because you need to be at scale to be able to deliver some of those large contracts for big FTSE 100 brands.
Absolutely. And I think for us, we kind of, as a group level, we're very much about good people, great work, because you look after your people, you do great work, you build great relationship with clients. We've got great staff retention figures. So that means consistency of service. It means that you can build to long-term sort of strategies that takes time to build. And so for us, we've got a couple of different quantifiers that we look at, because those to me would be red flags. We wouldn't be able to match them, nor is it right for us. But for us, it's kind of a simple cleanse, which we elegantly try to unpick in our first discovery call. And it's like, what's your appetite for change? And that isn't necessarily about changing and doing something disruptive creatively. It's actually, do you want a different way of working? But there's an appetite there to do something different. Do you understand the value that we bring to your marketing objectives? If not, then that's a problem for us. And then ultimately, it's understanding if they want a supplier or a partnership, because that really dictates 3 really key red flags. And any one of those being a no is quite telling for us. I'm with you there. You can usually see the ones that aren't right for us, especially as an independent group.
You can. And I think there's still a way to keep the door open with those, which is like, you can honestly say to the client, it's not for us, thanks for inviting us. We have got some insights, however, about things you've not written down in your RFP or your briefing document that we'd like to share with you. Are you open to a discussion?
Exactly that.
Most people will go, yeah, why wouldn't they be open to a discussion?
Yeah, exactly that. And it's the same way if we was to have a brief that comes through for RCP and it's not right for us, we always will go back and say, well, actually, good luck with your search. But if you need a creative production partner, our in-house team, all things are award-winning. And we work with all agencies. So it's having that agility to offer a solution to a potential pain point down the line, so they remember that in a way that has been done with diplomacy and respect for the process, but also to your own brand and what you offer as a business, I think.
And every touch point, every sales opportunity is actually an opportunity just to build and deepen a relationship. And that can take years.
Yeah. Oh, it always does. I mean, anyone that does business development and tries to do, I've sort of probably dip into this later on as the conversation goes, but short-termism isn't a sustainable business model. And so actually having that is your pipeline building and being intentional with that. And I think going back to sort of tools and processes, them not being a replacement for humanity, but they are an enabler for it. Like, I often joke that I've now finally found an assistant that works as laterally and as fast as I do, because honestly, my prospecting and my planning is so much more, it's quicker, and that enables us to work smarter. So there are.
I'm going to come on to question 2 in a second. But prospecting, I'm completely with you on any investor, any owner that brings in a new head of growth and expects growth, within 2 or 3 months, I think is deluded. Mm-hmm. You may get lucky, but it's unlikely. What's your view, just your experience on quite high level, but how do you build relationships with new potential prospects? What have you found is the best way of meeting new people that may become clients one day?
I'll give you my honest answer is we're ripping up the rule book right now and rebuilding it. So one thing firstly, it's networking and being at the right place and having a conversation with people about selling.
It's not volume-based cold calling using AI. Didn't think it would be.
No, it's really not. And actually what we're doing right now is we're going through all of our archives of people that we're contact harvesting. We're looking at relationships.
Exactly.
That in itself is a long-term game because it takes time, consistency and intentionality. So tools will help you, but AI scaled outreach just doesn't work. And when you do it, even with the human touch, it's probably about a 3 to 6 year conversion, if maybe more sometimes. So yeah, definitely not AI. It helps though, but not to do that actual outreach.
But this is back to building relationships. All the data tells us, all of the research from very big research organizations like Forrester and Gartner and the Salesforce research, everything points to the same thing. Buyers are now very skeptical about cold contacts. Something like 90% of buyers that were surveyed, I think it was the Forrester survey, said that before they start any process, they've got a supplier in mind. Now, it may not be the one they finally appoint, but I think 40% of those that were appointed were actually the ones at the beginning. Because you've built trust. I mean, it's bonkers. It'd be like going out on a date and getting married by the time you've had dessert, meeting someone new. It would be insane. So you're asking me to spend £500,000 with you that I've never met before, and we all think it's a good idea to do that, do we? And all you've done is give me some references that are bound to check out, because why would a reference ever not check out? It's insane.
It's crazy. I think also one thing that we've been doing at group level is often a lot of agency will go, it's fine, we've got a growth team, so they can do the outbound, they can do the contacting on LinkedIn, but I'm the last person a marketer wants to hear from because they see in my title that I'm business development growth. So it's like, well, actually, no. I can help give some tactics and some approaches and insights that I know through my skill set, but it probably should come from the ECD or the chief client officer or as that initial engagement, because it's not going to, and you have to give something valuable back or have it. So it's changing, I think, Mike, talking to my peers in the BD space as well. I think everyone's kind of on that train.
Completely agree. And also Brent Adamson, who I've got to know, who's a great guy. Brent and Matt Dixon wrote the Challenger Sale back in the day. And Brent's new book is all about, and I definitely buy into it, which is what we think is ghosting isn't actually normally ghosting. It's a lack of decision confidence by the buyer because they aren't aligned on their side amongst the 3, 6, 10, 11 stakeholders. They're not all aligned around, should we act now? Is the imperative big enough? Is the prize big enough? Or do we stay where we are? And it'd be a brave person in this market that placed $1 million bet on a third-party agency, because if it goes wrong, they will lose their job.
Yeah, makes sense. I think also, this is a softer side of that, is you've got the business critical element of stakeholder buy-in. Also, if they've got heritage and legacy relationships and working and problems, that's another thing to overcome. But to your analogy about not getting married or people getting married before dessert, timing timing is also everything, right?
Like, it is everything, exactly.
Everything. I remember, so this year we converted Chang to do some social work, and I first got in touch with them 5 years ago, and she never replied to my emails. It was for an introduction for a mutual friend, and I was like, when do I stop emailing this poor woman? Because like, she's probably inundated. So I was selective as to how the cadence, and earlier this year she got back to me and she was like, by the way, I'm sorry, but I'm a team of one. I've liked your comms, thank you, can we have a chat? And we've managed to do a project with them, you know. So there is the softer side of things, of knowing when to stop, but also empathy for clients is quite a big one, which I think we can all forget.
Definitely. So the second question we thought we'd discuss, what's the difference in your view between transactional and transformational growth? And why doesn't a singular focus on quarterly sales targets work as a lag indicator?
Oh, Mike, you literally, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole on this. So do bring me in if I go off in a bit of a monologue, an Oya log, if you like.
An Oya log. Oh, I like an Oya log. That's a great phrase. We'll have an Oya log.
We'll have an Oya log.
Listeners, right, tune in. We're having an Oya log.
I'm going in strong. One of my bugbears is when people ask you what your yearly growth has been, because actually you might have the best year of your life, but it's taken 5 years to get there. So that's transformational growth. Transactional growth is surface level. It's pipeline that looks full, but it's really far from healthy. It's KPIs without context. It's chasing instead of choosing. It's just that short-termism versus long-termism. And I think we've kind of touched upon it in your first answer. It's, you know, that growth and that trust. It's transformational. It's about building the foundations, the long-term play, reputation, relationships, rhythm. You don't just win clients, you earn them over time. And I guess once you've earned them, like with anything you've earned, and I'll put this into sort of like context of shopping. Like, I remember I bought my first bag that I could never, I'm from a very humble background, and my first bag that I could buy, I cherish it. It still,
yeah, you still got it.
I still got it because the value of that, it took a lot to get there, you know, and I wore it this weekend, actually. I think when you've earned something, you then earn every interaction to get smarter, to expand your scope, to build the foundations, to foster long-term relationships and partnerships, and they become an ally for you, right? So marketers will have a friend. So that's kind of the tip of it. And I think lag indicators like quarterly targets measure outcomes, not input. So they're irrelevant, really, especially if you're like measuring success on number of pitches that you're on. I guess if you're only tracking the win, you've missed the whole game, in my opinion. And I feel so strongly about this.
Oh, this is a great topic. So, for example, in the sales world, obviously, people say, well, yeah, what's your commit number? And I'm like, what? The thing that I'm going to promise that I can hit. And if I don't, I'm going to do what? I'm going to leave the company and go and walk in the desert for 50 years. I can't close a buyer that isn't ready to buy.
Yeah.
Your point then about you don't win clients, you basically earn clients, and that's earned through trust building. So if their objectives change at the end of quarter, as they often do, well, I'm going to say, oh, I know, I'll do you a discount if you're closed today. It's utter nonsense. No one balks of discounting, ever. Well, not in B2B high-end sales, at least. I'm completely with you. I think the way that we measure sales performance has to change.
It really does. And I think it's like you were saying about the Forrester stats earlier on as well, that the pitch didn't start last quarter.
No,
it's like 3 touch
started
points
3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly that. So as soon as you can start looking around corners, and not just looking around corners, looking towards the next area code and maybe even the next country to be able to build that pipeline, you'll always be in transactional growth. And I think what's really important as well, in my opinion, and it is just my opinion, is transformational growth is cultural. It's not commercial. Like it's building belief in the market and inside the building, more importantly, because people want to sell what they're proud of. And actually, when you do that really well, there's no hard sell. So it's something that I think in today's world, especially because of the AI and automation, I think it's something that people really need to remember. Otherwise, you'll lose relevance.
I spoke to a great guy last week who does a lot of branding work. So he's a brand strategy kind of expert. And if I get this right, he talked about 3 things for a brand. Focus and consistency. You've got to focus on a particular market and be consistent about those messages. The second thing was about being distinctive. Yeah. We kind of agreed that being differentiated these days is very, very difficult. Being distinctive is where we need to be. And the third thing was being emotional. And this was all based on research. This was like an aggregation of an awful lot of research base about what a brand is. And that last piece about being emotional is about being human. and about building a human connection and exposing yourself as a human being that's got flaws, what you do and don't know. That's what buyers buy into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you then understand, I think that distinctiveness and that differentiation, like you say, is the irony that I'm saying this while I'm still updating all the websites that we're updating is the reason why we've still got hold pages for some of our businesses, because we really want to be intentional about what we put on there. So I'm like, I'd rather we go later than planned than rush to do it and then not serve a purpose, because once you've done it, you've done it. And I think that really takes a lot of time to go, who is my ideal client? Who do we do our best work for? How do we use our language and our information on our shop window, digital shop window, to make sure that's really clear? And then we might change that in 2 years' time because we might change to a new, different growth target, you know? But I think that intentionality and consistency and really understanding your true self as a business and as individuals is the hard part, actually. It's easy to do it very quickly and chuck it into ChatGPT for it to give you some copy, but you can spot those a mile away.
You can. And I think, if anyone listening, neither me nor Oya are saying, let sales off the hook, don't make them accountable, it all takes time. The opposite. We're accountable as any other member of the leadership team is accountable, but it's about the buyer market has changed. And you do need to be able to, if you're betting your entire budget for the year on 2 or 3 opportunities landing on the 20th of October, well, you're in big trouble. You need to build intentional pipeline, build relationships so that as those months, hopefully not too many years go by, deals start to come in. But they're often bigger deals. But I think it's a bit of a barrier to entry for other agencies. Once you've got there and you've built the relationship and you've built the trust and it's more than just you, it's the whole team, then I think you've got a sales and marketing engine.
Yeah. And just to build on that, absolutely, like this is not the silver bullet to not hold your sales teams accountable. But I know you had David on the show and he talks about sort of control and responsibility in the Meikle Matrix. It's also making sure that the teams are set up with the right tools and systems to be able to make sure that pipeline is done and measured in a way that drives accountability and intentionality. So saying that you're going to go after something is great, but actually if this is where the tools come into it, you can track when you last made contact, who made contact, did they respond, why not, how long have you been emailing them for, have you tried calling them? If you have, then it's maybe time to just put the brakes on. But so it just makes a more efficient engine. And so absolutely it's use the tools to help fuel the effectiveness of your sales team with a bit more strategic thought.
Definitely. So to close it out, what are the characteristics of a transformational growth leader? What's underpinned your own personal development to become a chief growth officer? So something kind of like more personal about you, really.
This is a tough one, really, because, well, it's not actually. It was interesting because on the BD 100 panel that I was lucky to share a stage with Lizzie from Fold 7, who was talking about her, she won the year before. And our journeys are very different and our approaches are very different, but actually the themes are very similar. And the common themes are, we're translators, I guess, in many ways. So transformational growth leaders are translators, and we translate different parts of our business into something that can be productized. And you have so many different personalities that you need to adapt to. And if you've got multiple brands, then you have to adapt and translate what that means for each brand. So that's quite a broad skill set. But equally, there's element of commercial intelligence and IQ, emotional intelligence. I don't think you can learn that. I think that is innately human and based on a person's makeup, which then ties into resilience. I think resilience is real in this sector, in this role. You're the constant in everyone's chaos. The reality of the role is that it's relentless, it's lonely, but when it's done right, it's transformational. And so for me, I guess my journey, for me, growth is extremely personal. Like I didn't have a roadmap to become a CGO. I don't actually know how I got here, to be honest, apart from the fact that I asked questions, I was curious, I mentored, I got mentors to help me and understand different parts of the marketing ecosystem that I enjoyed. And I like to learn from failure. And I think you need to learn from failure to be able to be a good transformational officer, if you like. And I guess for me, that's it. I'm a hustler by nature. I've had no one I knew was in this industry. So I carved out a space for myself. And that was through building relationships and having a curiosity of learning.
Brilliant. So, Oya, people listening now, whatever journey they're on in terms of physical journey, going to work or they're coming back from school or going to school, what are the kind of top 3 things you take away from this conversation?
Okay, if I was to chunk it down, build trust. not just pipeline. So I think we covered that quite extensively. And that's not just with clients, it's with your teams internally. So it's a culture shift. Say no more often. Not every lead is the right lead. It's taken me a long time to think that, especially when a number's above your head. I think we talked about use tech, be more human, which feels like a bit of a cop-out. But can I give you this one? I feel like is the best third one. Make sure you see your growth team. Any agency that's lucky enough to have a growth team, take time to acknowledge what they build for transformational growth. It's often a thankless task. And when the work's delivered, the creative or the strategy or the media team are on to the next. The growth team are never stopping. It's an endless hamster wheel. So nominate them, recognize them, let them feel seen, whether it's through internal recognition or something like the BD 100. They carry a lot, and often invisibly. So I think that's my final one, which I think is the most important one.
Oya, it's been brilliant. Thank you. Where can people find out more about you?
So you can go to Not Normal Group and see what we're doing there, because I need to push the new brand name. And that is basically just notnormal.group. And then on a personal level, you can find me on LinkedIn, quite unique name. So hopefully not that hard to find. So that's me. And I'm usually at most, or try to be at most, networking events. So say hello if you see me and I don't know you, because I like meeting new people.
You do. Oya, thanks ever so much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast series with your host, Mike Lander. Please subscribe so that you'll catch all the next episodes.